What's up, guys? Like every single week, we're going to be taking just a couple of minutes to talk about the upcoming episode of American Horror Story Double Feature and the preview that they gave us. It's not very long, so we're not going to take a ton of time talking about it, but pretty interesting stuff. In fact, might be the best episode that we get thus far. So with that being said, let's jump right into it.
The pills create certain cravings. You want to know about the side effects?
Whatever it takes.
Okay, so right off the bat, we know it's a flashback episode, which I am very excited about. One of the biggest criticisms I've had for the first 3 episodes of the season has been solely directed at Finn Wittrock, Lily Rabe, and the actress, I don't know her name right off the top of my head, but the girl playing Alma. Their entire family coming into this town and just kind of shaking everything up in order to get the story running has not been the most interesting. Alma's written to a point where she takes me out of the scene more often than not because she's acting way too mature for her age, like super smart. Finn Wittrock is, while a good actor, not a great leading man unless he's super freaking crazy. Like when he was playing Dandy in Freak Show, that was actually fantastic. And then you also have Lily Rabe, who largely set out this last episode is super focused on Lyme disease and not being used to the best of her ability. I mean, she has given us so many fantastic characters in this show, and yet they're saddling her with this when she's supposed to be a main focus, at least for this part. It's kind of disappointing. But for the most part, since we're dealing with a flashback episode where we're dealing with the introduction of the pill from the chemist to Belle in the same room where Mikey is just there is so many questions. One, we know that they have somewhat of a sexual relationship. We know that Frances Conroy and Macaulay Culkin are vastly different in age, at least for a couple of decades. And I want to know what's going on there. I would assume that everyone was totally fine before the introduction of this pill, or for whatever reason. And then the chemist comes. Maybe Frances Conroy's character is a little bit down in her marriage. She's having this affair with a much younger man. The chemist comes, she gives her the pill, and it affects Belle pretty aggressively. She starts becoming very artistic, but also, bloodthirsty. And the only person that she can really confide in is Mickey. He goes off the rails. He loses his home or whatever. He, becomes addicted to drugs because he doesn't like what's happening there. Of course, the only reason that would be a little bit dumb is because why are you taking the pills now? Like, why did this all come to a head when Harry and his family moved to Provincetown? That's the one reason I don't know why we're focusing on a flashback episode, but, maybe they will have a really good answer for that. But at the same time, there's more to this than that, so let's just jump into the last part of this, and then we will discuss it.
Hey dude, you don't look good.
Okay, so it looks like we're having our very first introduction of a pale creature, and I'm going to stick to my theory that just because you take the pill doesn't mean you immediately turn into a pale creature. Granted, pretty much everything that we are learning over the last couple episodes seems to point in that direction, and this is making it look very clear like that's what happens. Like if you take it and then you immediately start turning into a pale creature, you have absolutely no artistic talent. But it does beg the question, if you know what the drug is supposed to do to you, then why would you take it if you have no artistic ambition in anything? And again, I'm going to keep focusing on Dr. Lark's teeth because the pale creatures have teeth. And they haven't established, maybe they will in the 4th episode of the 6-part of this season, which is dumb, but maybe they will focus on the fact that they do devolve, they make their teeth themselves, they file them down themselves or whatever. Maybe that gives Dr. Lark the idea. Who knows? But the only reason I can imagine, at least for the very first person to take the pill, is, there's obviously drug addicts. They go and take the pill because it's a huge high, or at least that's what they think it is, because it's like this new pill on the market, and they end up turning into the pale creatures without even really thinking about it. And that just happens to like a flash mob of them, of addicts. There's a lot of addicts here in Provincetown, especially during the winter, because the population is under 3,000 people. And then by the time that those addicts have taken them, that's why all these people look the same and kind of come from the same areas. And generally nobody else has really taken the pill before Harry gets there. And that's why everything starts. Okay, fine. Yes, it's dumb, but I guess I can live with that in terms of a story element.
What's wrong with you?
What's that?
Let's go get you fed.
Okay, some of the last couple of things here. We're going to be focusing on Evan Peters' character and Frances Conroy, their relationship and why they like each other. Obviously, we get the scene where Belle is giving Austin the pill for the very first time, and he's just kind of a no-name drag artist, somebody who goes up on the stage and sings. But ultimately, it does go to the point that I made in the review where I don't really quite understand the pills themselves and why Belle is the only one who's allowed to give them out or allow people to steal them from her, and yet there are so many pale creatures, and so many pale creatures again with the Dr. Lark teeth. That seems like something they desperately have to explain, and they've kind of swept it under the rug, at least for now. And I feel like they're not going to get to the point where they're doing that in this particular episode. Although, we do see a very brief shot from a distance of a pale creature attacking a person. I cannot tell you for the life of me who that person is from looking at him, but there's just something about that that makes me feel like it's Mickey. I doubt that, considering the fact that he's still alive. Also, looking at the footage, it also seems like tuberculosis Karen isn't tuberculosis. Like, again, what happens with these pills that makes Karen and Mikey go off and become sickly, drug depraved, poor? You know, everything that they become since we first got introduced to them in the very first episode. Like, what happens there? And thinking that they're going to have one episode to explain all that seems like way too much to do in the time limit that they're giving themselves, but maybe I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt and we're just gonna have to wait and see. Finally, I just want to reiterate my point that this one looks like the best episode so far because it doesn't have to deal with Harry and his entire family. I realize that they're the focal points of this season, the fish out of water for everything going on, but the problem is it's moving so quickly that these characters are just kind of acclimating to everything and being accepted too quickly to a reality that's genuinely hard to explain. I like the idea of a pill giving people creative license to do whatever they want, but the problem is this season is focusing so heavily on people doing things that cannot be expressed other than by discussing them. Like, on one hand, having Ursula and Mikey talk about Mikey's spec script for a Speed Racer reboot is hilarious. On the other hand, having name drops of a potential Netflix deal or Quentin Tarantino television show to be written by Harry's character is a little bit off-putting. In fact, it's one of the worst things about the entire season. Because at the end of the day, Ryan Murphy and the American Horror Story team have decided that the only way to express the fact that a writer is doing very well is to continuously throw exposition at us with popular names of people that we know, even though it doesn't really make sense in our real world situations. Like, we know who Quentin Tarantino is, and the show even makes it clear that he always writes his own stuff, and he's not doing a television show. Like, I can't imagine him doing a television show anytime soon, but you have to express that Harry is just that good. So, you know, I guess logic be damned, or it's just part of this universe. Either way, it takes me out of the story. I think that's one of the reasons Alma's character is so unique to this story, and one of the reasons it was so interesting for her to take the pill in the second episode, because someone practicing violin, you can see that happening, you can hear it, and you don't have to have any characters going up and telling each other how Yo-Yo Ma wants to, you know, recruit her as an apprentice. Anyway, I've rambled on this a little bit longer than I wanted to. Just wanted to get more thoughts out there that I didn't fully express in my review. So guys, tell me what your thoughts are for this particular episode. Are you excited for it? Do you feel like it's going to be better because it's a prequel? We're dealing with some of the characters and situations that will help us understand the story going forward. Do you think that we're going to be getting any inclination anymore for Death Valley and how this all connects, or do you even think it's going to connect? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.